the horror film I Choose You. So we are talking about The Chosen, a 2015 kind of demonic possession film with a little bit of a unique twist to it. So the premise of this film, basically, it follows 4 generations of a family, right from the great-grandparents right down to kind of a young girl. And basically, this family gets involved with kind of this ancient curse by Lilith, who is basically the first wife of Adam from Adam and Eve. And basically, she's got some nasty stuff going on, and it essentially possesses the youngest of the family, this kind of young girl, and ultimately threatens to take her to hell unless the kind of some members of this kind of family, most notably, I guess, our protagonist, who is this young lad who is this girl's uncle. Basically, they're given the choice between either letting this girl pretty much get sucked into hell or sacrificing 6 members of their bloodline, to their family, in place of this girl, basically. And in the midst of this, basically, we have this girl acting like she's possessed. Various kind of like supernatural phenomena sort of going on in the house, basically. So this ultimately comes down to a moral quandary. So that's pretty much the film. Obviously, I'm not going to kind of tell you how it all pans out, although I have to say you can pretty much guess what's going to happen. So let's talk about the positives and the negatives of this movie. So let's go with the positives first of all. I have to say, I think this is a relatively kind of unique concept. So you haven't seen this type of the specific type of story before, I don't think. So I kind of like that it has an original idea. Now, how it plays out is another thing, but at least the initial setup here is relatively original, and you kind of, it's not just a kind of a black and white story as such. The other positives I would say with this movie is there are some kind of quite creepy imagery going on. Now, there's not a whole lot of supernatural stuff. We do see a few sort of splashes here and there, but basically when this Lilith is basically acting out with this girl, we see this girl basically kind of jerking out of bed and kind of just acting very bizarre. And there's a few images there that I think are quite good, and look quite significant, and I quite enjoyed them. There's a lot of camera tricks sort of speeding up and that sort of thing. It's certainly not a gory film. There's actually no gore in this film whatsoever, but there are some creepy imagery and a few jump scares as well. So I kind of like that. I also quite like the fact that the story's main protagonist isn't like this father and stuff. He's actually the uncle. So it is a bit of more of a unique relationship than I felt like than you see in the kind of the majority of these films. Normally it's the kind of the mother or the father trying to save their kids, but this time it's an uncle. So it's, I don't know, to me that just made it a little bit more interesting, and the actual family dynamic themselves, it was quite nice. You have quite a lot of, let's say, there's the great grandparents, obviously the mother or the grandmother of the little girl, and then this guy, his kind of sister, who is the mother of this kind of girl who's possessed, and obviously the little girl herself, along with a few sort of uncles and cousins and whatnot. So and all of these characters had their own kind of like the kind of personal stuff going on. So I quite like the kind of almost the unique setup of this film to re-emphasise. So let's talk about some of the negatives. Even though this is a unique setup, I feel the way it's executed, you can kind of see coming a mile off. So when you have this kind of fairly kind of original setup, but as the movie progresses, you just know a lot of these family members basically are just cannon fodder, and we're just waiting to get down to the kind of who's going to be the last one, basically, and everything really prior to that is really just wasting time. Let's cut the chase. That's basically what you're going to be waiting for in this movie. So we see a variety of family members who you think they're clearly going to go. So it was, to me, that was just kind of a little bit of a wasting time. And it does, you can kind of guess the ending. I didn't feel it was, the way it played out was as unique as the setup may be. So it was kind of a little bit of a mundane once you kind of got over the initial kind of setup, if you like. So, but overall, it wasn't too bad. I didn't think it's not a gory film. The effects are pretty good. The acting is for the most part okay. I don't think it's fantastic acting, but like I said, other than it really just kind of really not living up to the originality of its own premise, I think it's actually not too bad a film, and it has some I quite like some of the imagery in there. The ending is a little bit too CGI for me. I feel it could have done with maybe sort of dialing it back a little bit, because it was quite effective before we got to that part when we kind of get to the explosive climax, shall we say. I felt it sort of maybe threw in the kitchen sink and was a little bit too much, but I guess you kind of wanted to say this big reveal, but I felt they could have dialed it back a little bit, and it may have been a bit more effective. But certainly not a waste of your time. It was a pretty good sort of horror thriller. So I'll give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.